oh boy, I'm hyped because this is the GPU we've all been waiting for. Let's talk about it. Before that, this video is brought to you by VIPCDKdeals.com. CDK Deals is a website dedicated to getting you the best prices on games and software, and right now you can get a Windows 10 Pro OEM key for an insanely low price. Just find the best price and apply my special discount code GPC20 for an additional 30% off. You can also check out securely with PayPal, and once the payment is cleared, you should get access to the code both in your account as well as in your email. In order to activate the new copy of Windows 10, just search Activate under Windows and type in your key. So if you want to learn more, be sure to click the link in the description below. Okay, so if you're a PC gamer like me, you're probably extremely frustrated with the GPU market as prices have just been going up and up and up, no thanks to Nvidia, as well as, let's be honest, AMD also raising prices seemingly every single generation, and it's gotten to a point where we now have GPUs like the 16GB RTX 4060 Ti, which gives us basically no more performance than the 3060 Ti, but at a substantial price increase. So things have definitely gotten really dire. However, guys, I have some really great news because in my hands right now, I have the GPU we've all been waiting for, and this is definitely, in my opinion, the best GPU launch since the GTX 1080 Ti, an absolutely legendary card for PC gamers. It makes Nvidia's essentially entire lineup look absolutely ridiculous. And yes, I know there's already been reviews on this, but guys, I highly suggest sticking around to watch this one because my God, it is a complete and utter disaster for Nvidia, and there's definitely a couple things that I think were overlooked when it comes to this card that makes it way better than what people are actually saying. So let's get right into it. Now, the specific GPU I'm going to be taking a look at today is the PowerColor Red Devil Limited Edition 7800 XT, which was sent to me by PowerColor, so thank you guys for that. And then the system I'll be testing this on has an i5-13600K, which was sent to me by Intel. It's running 32 gigabytes of 7200 megahertz DDR5, which is sent to me by Kingston, so thank you guys for that. And it's also using a 2 terabyte PCIe 4 Renegade SSD, also sent to me by Kingston. So if you want any of those parts, I'll have them linked in the description below, but let's get into those benchmarks. Now, the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is overclocking, as RDNA 3 overclocks like an absolute demon when given enough power. So the first thing I did was run a real quick time spy test, and I found that at stock clocks, it got around 2.4 gigahertz. However, I was able to raise that to about 2.9 gigahertz, which is a significant increase, and I was also able to increase the memory clock speed as well. Had this not been so power limited, which unfortunately it looks like all the AIB cards will be heavily power limited, well then we could actually be seeing 3.2 gigahertz plus out of these cards if BIOSes in the future have higher power targets. But even with these very limited power targets, this card, if we take a look here at Time Spy, even the stock results, we're seeing 12% higher than the RTX 4070 and 45% higher than the 4060 Ti, which is absolutely insane. And I do want to let you guys know I'm comparing it to the 4070 and the 4060 Ti because, well, they're both very close in terms of price. In fact, the 4060 Ti, even after the $50 recent price drop, is still closer in price to the 7800 XT, which comes in at $500 versus the $450 for the 16GB 4060 Ti, than the 4070, which can be had for around $600. So which card should this actually be competing with? I'll leave that up to you, but that's why I included both. But if we take a look here at the overclocked results, guys, we can see that the 7800 XT got a 27% higher score than the RTX 4070 and a 64% higher score than the 16GB 4060 Ti. So as you can see, already a complete bloodbath. But what about games? Let's go ahead and take a look. And I do want to let you guys know, I did test 6 of the games that I'm currently playing that are also very popular games on Steam and other platforms as well, as I wanted it to be relevant information not only to me, but also to the people who could be watching this video. I also decided to test at 1440p as it seems like all these cards are aimed at that resolution. So with all that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look. And first, starting off with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 at 1440p using the extreme settings. Here you can see that the 7800 XT on average is 36% ahead of the RTX 4070 and 72% ahead of the RTX 4060 Ti 16GB. Now, if we take a look at the overclocked results, it extends that lead even just a little bit further, and the shocking results here are actually in the 1% lows, where the overclocked 7800 XT is 48% faster than the RTX 4070 and 89% faster than the 16GB 4060 Ti. That is absolutely insane. Now, of course, you can overclock the RTX 40 series, but in my experience, all 40 series cards that I've tried overclocking actually get very little performance gains as they're very voltage limited, and in my opinion, it's just a huge waste of time. You're better off undervolting. But in any case, let's go ahead and move on to the next game here, which is going to be Fortnite DirectX 12 Epic Settings with Nanite off. And here you can see that actually the RTX 4070 does beat the 7800 XT stock. Now, overclocking the 7800 XT does pull it ahead a little bit, and even the stock results, the 1% lows, are higher than the 4070, but as you can see, not every single game will win with the 7800 XT, at least in the average frame rate. But now let's go ahead and move on to Apex Legends 1440p Ultra settings, and here once again the 7800 XT does get a slight win in the average frame rate, and in terms of 1% low here, once again, it's actually a massive improvement, 17% over the 4070 and 32% over the 16GB 4060 Ti, which of course is extended a little bit further with an overclock. Then moving on to Starfield 1440p Ultra settings with VRS off, a very popular new game. And here you can see the 7800 XT in terms of 1% lows. It's actually got a higher 1% low than the 4070's average frame rate. Absolutely ridiculous. But now let's go ahead and move on to the next game. Can it change? Here we're looking at Hogwarts Legacy 1440p Ultra settings and ray traced reflections. So yes, I'm not disabling ray tracing in all games, as I do think reflections actually are worth the cost on this level of a GPU. And here you can see the 7800 XT is actually getting a roughly 19% lead in average frame rate over the RTX 4070 and 46% higher than the 16GB 4060 Ti, which of course, again, is extended further by the overclock. But now let's go ahead and take a look at the last game, Baldur's Gate 3 1440p DirectX 11 and Ultra settings. And here you can see this is interesting because basically all the cards are identical, as it seems like it's CPU bound. So with that in mind, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at all these games, but I'm going to remove Baldur's Gate 3 as a CPU bound result isn't going to help us here. So taking a look at the 5-game average, we can see here that the 7800 XT on average is 13% ahead of the RTX 4070 and 39% ahead of the 16GB RTX 4060 Ti. But wait, oh god, does it get so much worse. So taking a look at the 1% lows, it's actually 24% ahead of the RTX 4070, which, mind you, is a $100 more expensive card, at least when you look at MSRP versus MSRP. But then taking a look at it versus the RTX 4060 Ti, we're talking about a 46% lead in the 1% lows. Absolutely ridiculous. And then looking at the overclocked results, of course, it only extends it further. Average 21% faster than the 4070 and 49% faster than the 4060 Ti. And then on the 1% lows, we're talking 30% ahead of the RTX 4070 and 53% ahead of the 16GB 4060 Ti, which, remember, that is very close in price to this card. So that is ridiculous. And how bad is it really? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the cost per frame. So there's a couple ways you can look at this. Now, the Red Devil 7800 XT limited edition that I'm looking at today is $590. So if you don't overclock it and you don't use the free game that's included, you're talking about $4.06 per frame versus $4.32 on the 4060 Ti and $4.69 on the RTX 4070. So even then, it is still significantly better, even though it's a far more expensive model. But that's just one way of looking at it. It also gets a lot worse for Nvidia when you talk about MSRP versus MSRP, which, let's do that, since honestly, guys, since all these cards are so heavily power limited, I don't think from one AIB model to another, there's going to be any real big performance differences. They should all be near identical. Sure, the PowerColor card looks really cool, comes with a lot of cool stuff, but in terms of performance, it should be very, very close. So with that in mind, if you pick up a $500 MSRP 7800 XT AIB model, which, by the way, are available, we're talking about $3.45 versus the 4070's $4.69, except wait, it gets even better because, well, it comes with Starfield Premium. That's another roughly $100 value add, bringing it down to $2.76. But wait, you can also overclock it, which then brings it down to $2.58 versus the 4070's $4.69 and the 4060 Ti's $4.32. So we're talking about a range of 63 cents per frame cheaper to roughly half the cost if you do plan on buying an MSRP 7800 XT using the game and overclocking it. Now, of course, it's going to be different depending on who you are. You're going to fall into one of those categories, but as you can see, it is a ridiculous bloodbath embarrassment for Nvidia when you compare the 7800 XT to their cards. It's not even close. Now, I'm sure if you had more games, I'm sure the gap would narrow a little bit, so I do suggest you watch other reviews, including people like Hardware Unbox and stuff like that, for a far larger list of games. But for these very popular games that I'm currently playing that's actually useful data to me, this is what we're looking at. And guys, it could be even worse, because if I made this chart based off of the 1% low performance and not the average frame rate, it would look even worse for Nvidia. It would be absolutely ridiculous. So honestly, guys, this is shocking. This is one of the most ridiculous embarrassments in terms of comparisons I have ever seen in my history of PC gaming. I've been buying cards for a very long time, and I've never seen something like this where you're getting so much more value out of one vendor versus the other. It's not even comparable. Whether you look at the 4060 Ti or the 4070, they are both so much worse value that even when you account for stuff that Nvidia does better, which they do have their advantages, such as DLSS is, in my opinion, better and more available than FSR2. You have frame generation, whereas FSR3 was just announced. And then, of course, you also have DLSS 3.5 coming out. The RTX 4070 and 4060 Ti are going to be far more power efficient, or at least they should be. And of course, there are some scenarios in which CUDA could be helpful for you. So like, there are reasons to buy a 4070, but when it's this much of a bloodbath, it is absolutely ridiculous for anybody to even consider either of those cards over this. This is, again, like I said in the beginning of the video, probably one of the best launches we've seen in a very long time. Now, it is disappointing in terms of the performance uplift over the 6800 XT, but we do have to remember the 6800 XT launched at $650. This is $500, so sure, might not be really much faster at all, but if it's way cheaper, that's still a big improvement. Now, the 6800 XT today can be had for roughly the same price as the 7800 XT, but when you're getting more features such as AV1 and other stuff that's coming to the RX 7000 series, I do think right now the 7800 XT is hands down, without question, the best GPU you can purchase on the market today. And I will, of course, have some Amazon affiliate links to various different cards in the description below. I highly suggest going ahead and taking a look at them, but I do also suggest taking a look at Newegg, as I'm not sure if Amazon is doing the Starfield bundle. I do know it's happening over at Newegg, and if you want that game, again, the value is absolutely ridiculous with these cards. It's a bloodbath, and Nvidia needs to have a massive price drop on all their cards immediately, because as it stands right now, essentially their entire 40 series all the way up to the 4080 has now been completely killed by the RX 7800 XT and all the various price drops on their other GPUs. But hey, that's just what I think. Do you think the 7800 XT really is destroying the 4070 by this much, or do you think there just needs to be more games tested? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below, and of course, I'll see you in the next video. If you made it to the end of the video, be sure to drop a like. Every time you do so, AMD and Nvidia release new GPUs. Also, if you want to see more, check out one of these related videos. You won't be disappointed.